Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be working on this vintage Union Pacific switcher locomotive from Revell. I picked this engine up off of eBay for the low price of $5. I was sort of surprised I was able to get it this cheap. I bought it in a lot with a whole bunch of other locomotives. You can find the video somewhere on my channel. And anyway, I think this engine was built at some point in around the 1960s, and when we tested it, it didn't seem to be doing a whole lot, so yeah, it's not very lively. I have no idea what's wrong with this engine, and I've never worked on one like this before, so I think it should be interesting. Just look at the oxidization on those wheels. They look pretty wicked. So anyway, I'll take it over the track, I'll show all of you what it's doing, and then we'll try to crack it open and see if we can get it running again. Maybe we'll be lucky with it. Who knows? I'm gonna be honest with all of you, I can't remember exactly what this thing was doing last time. I think it might have showed some current draw or something like that, but it certainly was not much. Anyway, I'm putting 8 volts in the track. I'll move it around a little bit, and I'm not getting any current draw on my controller, so my guess is that we have some sort of an electrical issue, which, considering how bad those wheels look, is really not too much of a surprise. But I doubt that that's the only problem. So let's bring this thing back over to the workbench and get working on it. So let's try to open this thing up. I don't exactly know how it opens. I don't know if this is connected to the shell. I could try and screw in this and see if this will come apart. I think this is all the same part, so I think we have to look somewhere else. I am noticing that there's a hole for a screw there, and on the other side. I don't see any up front, but maybe there's a part on the front which like fits up into this part of plastic and holds it on the other end. I don't know. I wonder if we just try applying a bit of pressure on this side, if it will just open up. Wow, apparently so. It doesn't look like there actually is anything holding it up there. So that's sort of interesting. Anyway, this motor looks almost exactly like an Athearn, a really old Athearn motor. And it does seem to be turning, although like I'm putting a fair bit of force, a lot more than I should be into it, so I don't exactly know what's up there. It's only a 4-wheel drive engine too, I'm just realizing. Let's get a screwdriver here and see if we can crack open that truck. If this engine is from the 60s, it's not going to be too surprising if the lubricants and everything have gone bad inside of it, because a lot of engines pretty much go through, existence without, being maintained. People just don't open them up or take them to hobby shops, so what can happen is, you can have an engine which is quite a few years old, but still with the same oil or lack thereof that it left the factory with. And inside here, it doesn't even look like there really is any oil. It doesn't look bad though. It's also appears to be maybe some sort of a band-driven engine. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I think this might actually just be a problem with the motor. I'm going to temporarily seal this up. We'll go in here and lubricate it in a moment here. I just want to figure out what exactly is happening with this engine, because this is just all sort of strange. I'll just put one screw in for now. Yeah, so this motor appears to be held on by the 2 screws we were messing with earlier. I don't know if we just remove this, if we can just pop it out, or if it's held on. I mean, it's clearly attached to that band somehow, I just don't know. Okay, I think I see what's going on here. So I'll get rid of this tape, because I think we need to remove these 2 weights in order to access the rest of the drive. I kind of feel bad removing this tape. It's probably been in here for like 50 years, but yeah, if the engine needs to be serviced, it needs to be serviced. Okay, so that makes things a lot easier to access. I don't even think I have to take the motor out at this point. I just wanted to be able to access that bearing. So we'll just try throwing a little bit of oil on both of the bearings, and maybe we'll see if that can kind of get the motor turning a little better. And then we'll just try applying some power to it and see if it will fire to life. don't know if I'm imagining things, but it already seems like it's turning a little bit better, so that's good. It also appears like they put a little flyweight, which is kind of interesting. This may be the first band-driven engine I've actually seen with a flyweight, so props to Revell for that. It would definitely help this engine perform a bit better. I've let the oil soak in, and it all seems to be turning a lot better, which is just great. So I'm going to actually apply some power to the motor now, and we'll see if we can get it turning. So I'm just going to put one on each side and give it a little more power. Hey! That's running really well. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was going to start that easy. I mean, even the commutator doesn't really look that bad. Yeah, this engine is super good. Look how clean the gap. Yeah, look how clean the gaps are. Wow. Maybe this engine's been serviced. I don't know. I'm very surprised to see that. Well, I'll just get a toothpick and clean those gaps out. I don't even think I really need to clean the commutator in this case. And it wouldn't be terribly hard to take the brushes and stuff out, but I just don't think it's really going to make a performance difference if I clean something that already looks really good. So yeah, we'll just make sure these are good. So yeah, I guess now what we could do is just see. It doesn't look like this thing is really successfully turning that band. I'm starting to speculate somebody did open this up at some point, because I just can't imagine this band lasting 50 years without dry rotting. It just doesn't seem very likely, but it still has got some stretch to it, so maybe what we need to do is just put the screws back in so the motor is putting a bit of pressure on that, and then open this up and lubricate everything, and then just go from there and see if it will work. So yeah, I'll go ahead and put those mounting screws back in. This wheel set would appear to be missing a traction tire, unfortunately, and the other one kind of looks like junk, so we'll have to see if we can try to replace those. Yeah, this thing isn't even fully intact. Yeah, these are definitely original. Look how dry rotted that is. I don't have any specific traction tires for this thing, but I do have these little O-rings, and I've been doing this for a while now with older locomotives with larger flanges, and it seems to work pretty well. A lot of people seem to think the O-rings would wear down really fast, but again, I've been doing this for years, and the engines I first started doing it on still have the original rings. The only problem I've had with this is that, unfortunately, if you don't have wide enough flanges, it can cause derailments, but other than that, these actually seem to work pretty well as makeshift traction tires. Now, for the other side of the wheels, we may as well clean them while we're in here, so I'm going to get my track bright and we'll work on those a bit. These wheels are pretty bad. This is definitely one of the worst cases I've seen working on these engines, but we'll try to clean them up a little bit. These track brights just do an amazing job at cutting through all the grime. Look how shiny those wheels are coming out. And now we'll just put this all back together. Look how much shinier those wheels are now. I've got this one backwards. Now what we need to do is just put a fair bit of oil all over pretty much all the components in here. Get that bearing there and all of that, and I'll throw quite a bit on these gears. These are metal gears, so they need a lot of lubrication. In fact, I'm going to put a good amount of grease on both those two just to be sure that we don't have premature wear. Just a good glob on each of them. Some may consider this over lubrication, but I just want to be sure that the metal components are getting the amount of oil that they need. And I'll spread this out a bit too, just so that we know it's even. Now that's all been serviced. See if the wheels are actually turning. Oh, yeah. It's all moving. Good. Can it actually move itself? Not so much, eh? I think that band will be okay. I'm not 100% sure, but there's only one way to find out. But before we do anything else, we need to service the rear truck because those wheels look like crap. I think these ones might be even worse than the front ones. Well, that's looking a little better. Took a while to get all that off the wheels, but I think it's going to be worth it if we can get this thing running, just because it's only got four-wheel pickup for power too, so you know, it's like it really needs each wheel that is picking up power to do its job as best it can. So yeah, we'll get that back in there. And we'll throw some oil in here so that's all lubricated well. Now, where's that cover at? Okay, let's put these weights back in, get the shell back on, and hope for the best, really. I think that's the right side. I'm kind of wondering if I should put some tape or something back, but I don't know. The screw seems to be doing a fine job. All right, well, I guess there's only one thing left to do. Let's put this shell back on and see if it'll go. All right, I got that shell back on. Let's go test it now. Well, I don't know what all of you think is going to happen with this thing. I'm a little unsure. Everything on paper is okay, but that one band seems a bit iffy. So let's give it power. That's weird. Yeah, I was afraid of that happening. Almost seemed like it had it there. Well, that's disappointing. Kind of thought that might happen. There's only one thing left to do now, which is just to open it back up and try to figure out something else for it. So I guess we'll undo that. And then we can at least get in here, and then I think I'm just going to break that band because it's not serving really any purpose anymore, and then we'll try to replace it with something. Hopefully I have something of similar size, or I can just use a small elastic. Yeah, maybe this is not as good as I thought it was. Now that I can actually feel it. Parts of it are good, but like, see, that's fine, but then as you get towards the ends, it is kind of dry rotted, so yeah, that's no good. I do have this thing. It might be just the right size. Let's cross our fingers here, folks. Gonna clean up that kind of residue or whatever it is. I just don't want that messing around with the band. Hope that this band works. Okay, here we go. Let's put that there and try to get this motor into place. I don't know. It might just do it. It's hard to say. The tension is kind of in the middle. But let's let's take this off. We'll get that screw back in there, and then we'll actually properly get this whole thing back together. And then really just hope for the best. think I put the wrong screw in the top weights last time. I think it was one of the ones off the bottom. Whoops. Okay, take two. This thing doesn't go. I think I got a few special words I'd like to say. Okay, I'm kind of confused. Doesn't seem to want to run now. It was getting power fine earlier. Oh. It's like it wants to go, but it just, something's not quite getting power. Well, okay. Come on, keep running. Well, it's sort of running. It's derailed at the moment. Let's try bringing it back. It's trying to go. Well, I played around with a few electrical connections which seemed kind of key, and it seems to be running a lot better. It's certainly not flawless. It does stutter every once in a while, but it is a four-wheel pickup engine after all, so you really can't expect it to be perfect. And overall, it's not running bad. That band seems to be doing its job, and it's got a working headlight. Like, it's overall not too bad an engine. See, there's a spot. That's actually a dirty part of track, so it's not really the engine's fault. Current draw on this thing is a tad higher than one might desire, but I noticed something while I was working on it the last time, which is that it's got this thing on the bottom, and I'm not sure how well you can see that, but it says Revell Inc. copyright 1956. So if that's true, this thing might have been made in about the mid-50s, which is about 10 years older than I would have guessed. I was pretty confident this was a 60s era engine, but yeah, it was probably made in the 50s. I don't know if it was made exactly in 1956. That might have just been when they started making these things, but it's not inconceivable it was maybe made a couple years after, so maybe around like 1958 or so. So yeah, it's a fair bit older than I would have guessed, but that also explains why the current draw is kind of high, because the magnets in these motors eventually go bad, so this one just has a really weak magnet, so the coils have to use a ton of energy to turn. So that's part of the problem, and then the coils are probably not in prime shape either. But hey, how much can you really expect from a $5 engine that you got? And you know, it didn't run when you get it, and now it's kicking around. So yeah, really no complaints there. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. I am pretty happy with the results. And with that, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching.